Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video we'll be concentrating on the poem The Farmer's Bride by Charlotte Mew. The poet had a tragic life, but she's an incredibly influential female voice in poetry in her times. She was born in 1869, the eldest of many children in London, and 3 of her siblings died when they were children, and later 2 others would be sent to mental asylums for the rest of their lives due to what was considered to be lunacy or madness at the time. She lived with her mother and her sister Anne, both of whom vowed to remain completely single for the rest of their lives to escape passing on this lunacy to the next generation. When her sister Anne died, Charlotte got incredibly depressed and then killed herself in 1928. Critics have definitely fixated on her sexuality, but this poem concentrates on the confines of a marriage for women as told by a possessive husband, in this case, a very gruff farmer. So let's consider the title, The Farmer's Bride. Instantly, it's important for us to realise that this story is told by a man, not the bride herself, and it takes the form of a dramatic monologue, so there is literally no way for us to hear her voice as only one person speaks, the farmer. The woman is completely left unnamed. In fact, she is the possession of her husband. She is his bride. We have to consider, why does the poet present the bride as completely voiceless? Does it heighten that this woman's life is completely defined by a man? Is it a question to society that women can't actually be legitimised or allowed to speak out? If nothing else, this poem presents the constraints and suffering that a woman could have had in historic terms within the confines of a marriage. This poem really comes to life with an accent, so here's my attempt. 3 summers since I chose a maid, 2 young maybe, but more's to do at harvest tide than bide and woo. When us was wed she turned afraid of love and me, of all things human. Like the shut of a winter's day her smile went out. And 'twasn't a woman, more like a little frightened fray. One night in the fall she runned away. Out among the sheep her be, they said, should properly have been abed, but sure enough she wasn't there, lying awake with a wide brown stir. So o'er the 7-acre field and up along across the down we chased her, flying like a hare before out lanterns. To Churchtown, all in a shiver and scare, we caught her, fetched her home at last, and turned the key upon her fast. She does the work about the house as well as most, but like a mouse, happy enough to chat and play with birds and rabbits and such as they, so long as menfolk keep away. Not near, her eyes beseech, when one of us comes within reach. The women say that beasts in stall look round like children at her call. I've hardly heard her speak at all. Shy as a leveret, swift as he, straight and slight as a young larch tree, sweet as the first wild violet she, to a wild self, but what to me? The short days shorten and the oaks are brown, the blue smoke rises to the low grey sky. One leaf in the still air falls slowly down, a magpie's spotted feathers lie on the black earth spread white with rime. The berries redden up to Christmas time. What's Christmas time without there be some other in the house than we? She sleeps in the attic there, alone, poor maid. 'Tis but a stair betwixt us. Oh my God! The down, the soft young down of her, the brown of her eyes, her hair. Told you, it only comes to life with an accent. Our speaker is both unromantic by 21st century standards, but incredibly pragmatic also, and he presumes across this dramatic monologue that the reader will understand him and his views. He refers back in the opening line to 3 summers since I chose a maid, and his dialect is broad. His choice of language heightens how practical he is. He refers to choosing a maid, almost as if he was choosing an animal, a cow it could be. But the prized possession of this maid is, by definition, the fact that maid means virgin. This heightens the sense that our poem isn't just about their relationship, it is specifically at points about their sexual relationship, or lack thereof. The farmer seems incredibly surprised that his wife ran away, And yet he acknowledges in line 3 that he had little time to bide and woo because he was busy with the harvest. It's as if he expects his wife to fully understand the remit of his role as a farmer and to be able to manage her emotions so that they don't get in the way of the functioning of this farm. This is most clear through the simile in line 6, which also lacks emotion and proves this, like the shut of a winter's day. As if he doesn't get it. If it's not black and white and really clear, he genuinely doesn't understand why his wife can't just support him rather than run off. It's clear throughout the poem, though, that he is not evil. This is meant to be an ordinary farmer. So what is Muse saying about these attitudes held by the everyman in society? What even does it mean when it says she turned afraid in line 4? Is that because he is not aware of her feelings and she can't stand that? Or is it actually that she had no say in her own marriage? The rhyme scheme is incredibly intense across this whole section. The pairs that rhyme, such as day with fay and away, emphasise the build-up to this wife's decision to run away. This section is where the drama is heightened. We see this woman is chased like an animal. She's in fact compared through the simile of flying like a hare. And it's both barbaric as imagery and highlights exactly why this woman would be terrified. The voices of they are ominous. It stresses that the farmer got all his friends to hunt his wife down, and they judge her for running away. As readers, we judge them for treating this woman in such a way. And it begs the question, where are her family? No family are mentioned but him, the husband. And until 1870, the Marriage Property Act declared that she would automatically be her husband's property. So running away, well, she just needs to be returned back to her husband like a piece of lost property. The simile like a hare also dehumanises her, but simultaneously proves she is incredibly vulnerable, like an animal being hunted down. The terror is also made clear with some of the sibilants of shiver and scare. The verb caught, we caught her, fetched her. Caught implies it was like collecting the stray, and fetched was just collecting what needed to be collected. The most shocking revelation is that she's then locked up in her own house, well, her husband's house, controlled by her husband so that she can only roam where he wants her to. The rhyme between last and fast is meant to be chilling and just add the finality with the full stop of his control. The next section of this poem concentrates on yet another animal image of this wife as quiet as a mouse, suggests she's shy and withdrawn. And yet she finds sanctuary with nature. This section tells us that she's happy enough to chat and play with birds and rabbits as long as they're safe from men. It provides a refuge for her being with nature. It's interesting that her eyes are the only part of her that speak, and they say, not near, go away, essentially. She is practically voiceless, so there's an irony to that mention in this monologue of her husband. Her eyes say, leave me alone. And it's interesting that the others in this village, they make rumours about her, about how familiar she is with nature, emphasising, I think, how crude the community are and how they just don't want to understand her. It's clear to us as readers why she is misunderstood and unable to speak out. And as he acknowledges, I've hardly heard her speak at all. This stanza proves how unsuited she is to be a wife, or at least his wife. She needs to be free, not chained down by chores and matrimony. This next section of the poem concentrates on another reference to her as a hare, as a leveret, who's shy. And it's a cascading of similes here. She's defined by her looks here. We're reminded that she's slim. And as we unfold, the speaker seems to lust for her more and more as the poem continues. The question posed at the end of the line to her wild self, but what to me? We understand our speaker has a desire to be looked after and sexually fulfilled by his wife, and we definitely understand that this wedding did not get consummated by sex. And as we unfold this next section, there's a reference to what's Christmas time without there be some other in the house than we. It's made clear by this urgency he wants to have a child with her. And yet, he still lacks awareness of true affection and sensitivity to her needs. 3 years into marriage, he hasn't grasped that it's not just his desires that count. As the poem reaches its climax, his lustful and distressing tone heightens, concentrating on where she sleeps. It's interesting to note that this is the first time in the poem she's given any sympathy by him, and we have to question when he says, poor maid, why he does that. And then it says, but a stare betwixt us, and that automatically takes quite an ominous tone. We wonder why it's so important that there's just one staircase before them. The way his speech breaks down also into monosyllabic utterances and simply naming body parts evokes fear. We wonder what is going to happen next, and we're worried for her safety. The use of exclamation marks, the 3 of them in just one stanza, highlight his urgency to fulfill his yearnings. The farmer's bride seems like a servant, not a wife. Yet she has a private world that her husband cannot violate, and that is her mind. Across the poem, the rhyme scheme deviates and changes pace. This irritability shows how the rhyme does not follow the speaker's control. And I wonder if that is mirroring the distance between the farmer's bride and the farmer, and the fact that he seeks absolute control, yet he can't fully get it. There's a lot of speculation at the end of this poem about whether she is going to be raped by her husband or not. We don't know, but it's chilling and it's scary, and it's meant to not leave us with much closure. Is Mew proving here that women, though silent, can still defy expectations made of them in Victorian society? Or are these simply hollow victories to manage to have your own private world in your mind, but still be denied the love and affection you truly want and deserve? Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?